Hello, Patriots. You know me as Bravo von Mueller, and I am your wartime consigliere. I was in California just recently, and as you can tell by the all-seeing eye, that California, San Diego, Palm Springs, it's sort of the West Coast Illuminati capital of the world. So I went to an area outside of Palm Springs, and it brought back some memories from over 30 years ago. As you know, I worked for the man at one time, under my slave name. Everybody who watches my videos, you know my slave name. But if you do not know my slave name, and it matters to you, you should go look up the Bravo von Mueller roadside chat video on slave names. But that's neither here nor there. Today's story is about the military-industrial complex and brainwashing. As I said, I was in California, not far from Joshua Tree, not far from the largest Marine base in the country. And I came across an interesting place, which is still using some brainwashing techniques that I encountered over 30 years ago when I worked for the military-industrial complex under my slave name, when I took orders from senior chief master sergeants, colonels, generals, and even Ronald Reagan, the commander-in-chief himself. But here we are outside of Joshua Tree, California. Landers, I believe the specific town is called Landers. Now, this is an interesting windmill that produces a good amount of electricity. Everything we're going to be talking about today is cycles and frequencies. So if it can turn in a circle, remember, it can produce power. Here we are at Integratron. So a little basic background information is required before we get to the main story. As I said, we are here at Integratron. This is a relic from the 1950s. Back in the day, when George Van Tassel created this masterpiece, it was quite state-of-the-art thinking. Today, they are performing some brainwashing techniques there, which I want to talk about. Because as I said before, I experienced these brainwashing techniques over 30 years ago. So when I saw them being applicated again out here in the middle of the desert on hipsters, well, it brought back some memories. It was kind of shocking. It's an old technique, but it really does work. There's nothing wrong with old techniques if they still work, and apparently they do work. But again, this domed shape structure was created by George Van Tassel in the 1950s. If you are not aware of the stories, George Van Tassel had an encounter with some small Mediterranean type people who were either aliens from another planet or from our future. And they came here in a spaceship and they gave him some basic calculations on time and space. And he created this dome structure. It's all based off of frequency. Remember, we talked about frequency, the windmill turning around, cycles. Okay, what is a frequency? A frequency is the number of cycles per second, or to think outside of the box, a frequency can be used in the terms of any repeating cycle per unit or even per time unit. So frequency is inversely proportional to time. So I will just basically quickly give you the formula that the aliens or time travelers gave to George Van Tassel. They gave him a basic equation. It was F equals 1 over t. Again, the basic equation they gave him to understand time travel, time and space was F equals 1 over t. F is frequency, t is time. The 1 could possibly stand for oscillation. So, what we're talking about here is cycles. I always try to teach people that the whole thing revolves around cycles. Everything that we are experiencing today, we in some way experienced it in 1930, and then maybe 80 to 100 years before then. Time goes in cycles. So I don't have time to make this a time and space college course. We're just going to go into something I found strange that I experienced over 30 years ago, and I experienced it just recently in this domed building. You see the similarities between this dome building that was made in the 50s and the electrical power making windmill that turns around. Again, everything goes into a cycle. I don't want to beat a dead horse over that. George Van Tassel was a brilliant man. Some people claim that he might have worked with the military-industrial complex. He was a pilot. He had a basic airport out here that the military used out in the 1950s. And again, the aliens came and saw him. He made this structure, and he based some of his theories on Nikola Tesla. Again, his scientific project was aided in his research into Tesla's theories, ideas, and work. And then, of course, the military-industrial complex rode with it. Now, in the beginning, what George Van Tassel was trying to work on, of course, was time travel, understanding time and space. But what he really was interested in was rejuvenation. Yes, life rejuvenation, repairing cells that have gone bad. He thought that frequencies, electrical power, cycles could repair cells. We're talking life extending theories and principles. Yes, George Van Tassel was convinced that dabbling in frequencies in the F equals 1 over time theory formula, that he could actually extend the lifespan. George actually said that the aliens or the time travelers that he met, they were small, like 5'6", Mediterranean looking people, white, with a good tan type of people. He said that they looked no older than 30, but they claimed to be 700 years old. Believe it or not, but this is a fact, that the theories on frequencies, time and space, these have been around since the 1950s. Imagine what is going on today in some of the brightest minds. It would literally scare you half to death. But again, we're not going to dig too far deep into the history of Integratron. The story today is about a brainwashing technique that I came across again. And for the last time, I will tell you that I experienced this technique over 30 years ago on an Air Force base in Texas. Yes, I was sent there TDY. It was a temporary assignment. I was stationed at Vandenberg Air Force Base out on the west coast of California. But again, I was sent on a temporary assignment to Texas. And I was to experience these theories in relaxation, mind control, and they were all based on frequency. This is most important. Frequency is, remember, cycles per second. And these techniques were being formulated in the 30s and 40s and 50s, not only in America, but over in Europe and Germany, Italy. But the American military, United States military, started to actually put them in practice in the 1980s. Again, I experienced it. These frequencies were integrated into music. And I'm going to cut it really short here. All it was techniques with music and hidden frequencies that would be able to put you into a deep sleep, almost a hypnosis, and you would be relaxed. And of course, they could also put things into your mind while you were under, and it was a very, very scary experience, but you don't even know half of what was going on because you were out, you were under. And they are actually doing this to hipsters today as we speak. The hipsters are spending money to go into this structure, and they go up those stairs there. You see those stairs? They go up those stairs and they sit down and they hear these frequencies and they actually go to sleep and they become more relaxed, of course, but it's actually being done here 30 years later. I thought it was an amazing thing. It really brought back some memories. I'm not saying anything bad's happening here, but there is some brainwashing going on with the hipsters today that was actually going on to military people back in the 1980s. Let's take a look at the facilities.
What color are those tickets? You guys all set for 12:15? All right, you guys ready for 12:15? You know blue does all that. You gotta go forward.
So here we are at the Integratron. It is a very peaceful location. It's like a tourist destination. When you come here in the bottom, you have to take your shoes off before you go up top. And what you're looking at here, or what George Van Tassel's tried to create, was an electrical field, a magnetic field, but he was, again, dabbling in time travel because he understood the formulation for time travel. To understand basic time travel, F equals 1 over T. Remember, in the 1950s, we were aware of 2 dimensions of electricity, like the electric field, amps, currents, and the magnetic field. But there is another field of electricity, and that would be the time zone, which is also interconnected with the gravity field. Okay, I'm not going to make this video go on forever, but a couple hipsters did drag me up these stairs, and I went up there, and I was supposed to experience the life rejuvenation session, which was going to also put me into a hypnosis with the sound. I decided to leave immediately because I'd already experienced it before. I knew what that we were getting into. And now you also know why the CIA today is involved with music festivals. So anyhow, at the beginning of this video is an example of the frequencies that can put you into a hypnosis. And then at the end of this video is an actual recording of the sound that's going on up here where I actually left. So I left before it went on. So here you go. As you just heard there was a little bit of wind outside. But I'm going to leave you with this. We are outside of the structure right now. I have eliminated the wind sound. I'm going to leave you with this sound that's going on upside the top of the building right now. You can actually hear it from outside here. Even the ant, see the lizard? Even the lizard hears it. Listen carefully.